so much, y'all. How y'all doing today? So I got a couple people that's standing over there. Come on, bring it in nice and tight, y'all. I got a story to tell y'all. You guys are gonna get some value out of this story. How many of you guys are having fun at the Hella Vegan event today? Make some noise. Woo! All right. So my story, I've been plant-based now for a little bit over 3.5 years, right? But the person that you see in front of you today hasn't always looked like this, right? It's almost been 5 years since I had a huge health scare, right? Back in August 24th, 2015, I got rushed to the hospital because they thought I was having a heart attack, y'all. Not the place I thought I was gonna be at the age of 30, right? Getting rushed to the hospital, you know, fighting for my life, thinking that I'm dying, and wondering where is this coming from, right? I was working in corporate America at that time in my life, 10 years, marketing, sales, all that kind of stuff, 9 to 5, you know, making 100K, doing what we call the American dream, right? Not the American dream at all. I had to find my truth by going into the darkness. And what I mean by the darkness is, you know, I neglected my health as much as possible. I didn't work out, you know, I'd hang out, eat all the foods that, you know, we grew up eating, barbecue, fried foods, all the alcohol, the whole nine. And that got me to a place in my life where I realized, you know, I didn't even recognize the person that I saw in the mirror anymore. And I was 250 pounds, so I was almost 90 pounds heavier than what you see today, right? And when that actually happened, it was 1 a.m. where I woke up and I had this sharp pain in my chest. Worst pain I've ever felt in my life, right? My wife, my 4 kids, my mother-in-law, they're all asleep in the house. And I wake up with this pain that I can't even describe to y'all. It was almost like something was just ripping my chest apart, right in the middle of my chest, shortness of breath, my chest was collapsing, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And at that point, I realized I need some help, y'all. And looking at that time in my life, if you guys know me, I hate the doctor, right? I hate going to the doctor, I hate getting checkups, the whole nine. So when I go into a room and wake up my wife 1 o'clock in the morning and let her know that I'm suffering from this pain in my chest and it's killing me, y'all, she's worried. She's looking at me like, what's going on? So the first thing she does is call 911. I said, babe, I don't know what's going on. I can't breathe. My chest is caving in. I'm getting lightheaded. Please call 911 right now because I don't know what's happening, right? So she calls 911. The ambulance comes out, the paramedics come out, they do all my vital signs, and what they tell me is like, you're having a heart attack. We need to get you to the emergency room right now. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm 30 years old, like, oh my God, you know, what's going on? So they rush me to the emergency room. At this point, you know, I'm thinking about my family. When people say their life flashes before their eyes, when, you know, you're on your deathbed, that's what I felt like happening. That's what was happening to me at that particular moment. My life started flashing before my eyes. I started thinking about my kids. I started thinking about my wife. I started thinking about my family. I started thinking about all the things that, you know, I haven't accomplished in life, right? And at that particular point, I was scared, y'all. It was a point of fear. It's like, man, if this is the last day I'm here on earth because I've neglected my body so much, you know, what will my kids think? How will they grow up? How will my wife provide for the family at this point in time? So all this is flashing through my head as they're rushing me to the hospital in the ambulance. And once I get to the hospital, y'all, you know, they're running all kinds of tests. Doctors and nurses are running in and out the room, hooking all kinds of monitors up to me. They're trying to get my vital signs regulated, the whole nine. And at this particular time, I'm like, wow, you know, I'm about to die today. And that's a cold feeling, y'all. The day that you feel like, man, this might be it. So at that particular time, they ran all kinds of tests on me. Luckily, it wasn't a heart attack, y'all. So telling you this, those that haven't had a heart attack yet, you don't want that feeling. You don't want to know what it feels like to be in the medical room and have your chest, your life just flowing right out of your body and not know what's going on. And I asked the doctor at that point, I was like, so what's going on? Why did I feel all this tightness in my chest? Why couldn't I breathe? And guess what the doctor told me? I don't know. You know, that's not what you want to hear a doctor tell you. I don't know, you know, it just happens. Well, no, that doesn't just happen. So he was like, well, what you need to do is go see a specialist, right? So they sent me over to a cardiologist, and they ran some test on me, which is called a stress test, where they want to make sure that the blood is flowing to your heart properly. And with that being said, I took the stress test. They thought that I had to get a stent put inside my heart to allow the blood to flow better, and that's why I was having pains in my chest. And at that particular time, I'm like, damn, I'm only 30 years old. I'm dealing with all these medical issues, things that my parents told me eventually were going to happen in my life, which is crazy, because this is why I do what I do, y'all, because a lot of times as kids, especially in the community that I grew up in, that we've been told from a very young age, you know, not to focus on our health, right? It's not a concern that we really talk about until something actually happens. And when I was growing up, my dad told me, you know, when you get older, you're gonna get diabetes, you're gonna get high blood pressure, it runs in the family, right? And at that time, what could I do but just believe what my dad was telling me? But in all honesty, he didn't know no better, because what does run in the family is the poor diets that we have, y'all, that leads up to all these health issues that we have, right? Especially plaguing our inner city communities. How many of us know somebody that has high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, has cancer, or some kind of health issue? Raise your hands. It's running rampant in our communities right now. Why? Because of our diets, y'all, what we're putting in our bodies. And I didn't realize that when I was in the hospital and they were doing all these tests on me, right? I thought this was just a process of life. And now understanding what I know and what I've come back to the community, and I'm teaching the community through coaching and training and the whole nine, is we can prevent all these health issues that are plaguing the community, y'all, that are killing us each and every day by the things that we're putting in our mouth, right? Not realizing all the hormones, all the things that they're feeding these animals, right? So once I got all my tests that came back and they were like, nope, everything's perfectly fine, I came to realize is I need to make a change in my life. And being a former trainer when I was younger, I knew what to do, but I wasn't implementing it in my life at that point. So I knew to work out, I knew what to eat, but guess what? I just wasn't doing it. So that's my youngest son, y'all. So that's one of my kids. He was, I believe, 1 year old when this incident happened, right? And the whole time, you know, I'm looking at myself as like, okay, I need to get my stuff together, because I need to be there for my sons, right? I have 4 sons. This is one of my youngest sons right here. And when that process started to change, to start realizing that I needed to start eating better, start putting better things into my body, that's when my life changed forever, right? So in 2015, January 15th, I told myself, I'm gonna give myself 6 months, you know, clean up my eating, working out 5 days a week, making no excuses, really focusing on myself, you know, so I could be here for my kids, right? Be here for my kids and my family. And during that particular process, you know, I cut out alcohol, I cut out all the processed foods, I cut out all the sugar. Growing up, you know not to eat beef, right? For whatever reason, we can identify with beef as not being healthy. We can identify with pork not being healthy, right? But when we start looking at chicken and turkey, we're like, oh, you know, it's just chicken, it's just turkey, it's just a little bit of fish, right? We don't think twice about it. We think we're doing something that's really clean, right? We think of it as clean eating. In reality, that's still putting animal flesh, animal products into our bodies, which still affect us, right? So as I was going through my process, I lost the weight, but I still felt like something was off within me, right? At that particular time in my life, I was also suffering from a little bit of depression, a little bit of anxiety. I would have these anxiety attacks that would come out of nowhere, and I was like, man, what's going on? And you know, anytime that you go out to the doctor, what do they try to give us, y'all? Medication, pills, pharmaceuticals, right? And that never spoke to me. I was like, nah, I don't want to put none of that stuff in there. I don't want to put none of these pills into my body. You know, I'm just going to deal with it, right? And at the point when somebody asked me one simple question, y'all, one simple question, I transitioned my life once I lost all my weight to becoming a trainer again, helping out my inner city communities, you know, with weight loss and the whole nine. But it was a question that somebody asked me that I had no idea what they were talking about. They asked me, did I know what it was like to be a vegan? And I was like, vegan? Nah, what? What's a vegan? They were like, you know, you're a trainer. You're supposed to know all this kind of stuff. Do you know what it's like to be a vegan? I was like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. I said, I think you mean vegetarian, right? They were like, nah, you said you're a trainer. You're supposed to know what a vegan is. I was like, nah, I don't know. So with that one question, I was at the barber shop and they asked me, one of the barbers asked me, he was making the transition in his life to the vegan lifestyle. He asked me, I had no idea. To be honest with y'all, I heard that word one time, the word vegan, and it was when I was 11.